All right, Cynthia, I think you can start.
Hey, thank you so much, Carlene. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Success Express webinar on storytelling made simple. I am Cynthia Conigliaro from Wellness with Cynthia and a member of the Quarter 9 495 Regional Chamber of Metro West Programs Committee. The mission of the Corridor 9 495 Regional Chamber of Metro West is to be a dynamic regional business organization striving to promote growth, prosperity, and quality of life for our members and communities. The purpose of our webinar is to help Chamber members with their professional and business development. Each webinar is designed to be an interactive and presented by Chamber members who are experts in their fields. Please turn on your videos. We like to see you. This is not only to help the presenter gauge their presentation, but this is a networking event as well. So please put your contact information in the chat so we know where you're from and more about you. I would like to now thank Central One Federal Credit Union, our sponsor of this Success Express webinar, and introduce Dave Kaiser, Senior Vice President of Retail Services, to say a few words.
Thank you, Cynthia. It's great to be here. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to everyone. Central One is proud to sponsor the Quarter 9 495 workshop series. And a little information about us. At Central One, we want to be more than just your bank. As a 100% customer-owned credit union, we provide better rates, genuine advice, and commitment to helping you achieve your goals. Since profits aren't our main focus, we always prioritize you and the communities that we serve. In addition to personal and business banking, we also offer in-house financial services that include auto, home, renters, and commercial insurance, as well as life insurance and financial planning through our Retirement and Investment Center. We're proud to be a perennial top award winner or mention in the Worcester Telegram and Gazette's Best of Central Mass Readers Survey in the credit union and financial planning categories, as well as our Oak Tree Insurance Agency winning the Best Insurance Agency the last 3 years. Given that there are so many other institutions and much larger institutions that people could be voting for in these surveys, we're very grateful that those that we serve do appreciate us so much for what we do. So if you haven't had a chance to explore Central One and how we can help you, I certainly hope you take some time to check us out or speak with any of us in an upcoming chamber event. And other than that, thanks for your time and enjoy the workshop.
Thank you so much, Dave. Really appreciate that. I would like to now introduce our speaker, Susan DiClemente. And first, I want to start with a brief bio about Susan. So Susan DiClemente Coaching and Consulting specializes in communication and leadership coaching and consulting. Her collaborative style of co-creation leads to exponential growth for her clients. Susan's 30 years of experience in the life sciences industry focus on communications, project and people management, strategic advising, mentoring, and coaching, positions her to guide clients in strategic communications, planning, execution, and growth. She has shared her storytelling skills in both scientific and business settings and has collaborated with executives and project teams to articulate their goals and develop clear execution plans that have led to measurable success. By bringing a new perspective and challenging old assumptions, she works with her clients to see possibilities and opportunities that were previously invisible. Welcome, Susan.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be here today and to share with you one of my favorite communication skills, which is storytelling. It is so powerful. And so, as we go through the presentation today, I want you to think about how you could use storytelling to elevate your businesses. So, before we get started about that, a little bit about me. So I have 30 years of experience in corporate communications, most of it in the pharmaceutical industry. The images, the two women on the bottom, those are representative clients of mine. So while I was in the pharmaceutical industry, I worked with many women in the organization to help them navigate the organization and actually articulate their ideas so that they could be heard. And I now do that full time in my coaching and consulting business. The photos across the top, the first picture is me and my wife. We've been together 31 years. We're actually celebrating our 20-year anniversary, wedding anniversary this month. The middle photo is our beautiful dog, Yogi. She is 15 years old. She just had her 15th birthday in April, and we're super fortunate to still have her all these years. My mom moved in with us in January. She's 89, and she's a feisty Italian lady, full of love and humor and kindness. The photo of the beach, that's my happy place. No matter where I am in the world, if I'm by a beach, I'm happy. And my favorite food group is coffee. Some would argue that it's chocolate, but I still say it's coffee. So enough about me. Let's move on to the presentation. So step one, know your audience. Whenever you are developing a story, any type of communications message, it's critical to know your audience. In the communications field, we say audience first. Everything is about your audience. And what I want to remind you is an audience can be an audience of one. It doesn't have to be a group of people like we are today. It can be an audience of one, whether that's your manager, a direct report. In your personal life, it could be your child, your spouse. So know your audience. Two ways that I know my audience. One is if I'm speaking to a group of people, I always chat with the organizer to understand the makeup of the audience. Who's in the audience? Can you give me a list of registrants so that I can then go to step two, which is take time to learn about them. Go to their social media feeds, see what interests them, both professionally and personally. So knowing your audience is critical. Step two, there has to be something for everyone when you're telling a story. And so I love this image. It just makes me happy, but it also is very exemplary of Disney, Pixar. They do a great job of having the 40-year-old and the 4-year-old watch the same scene, but laugh for different reasons, right? And that is so critical. I'll tell you a brief story. When I was working in the pharmaceutical industry, I would coach scientists on how to tell a story about their science, which is very different than giving a scientific talk. Many of them are good at giving scientific talks, but they don't know how to stray from that. So I had this one scientist I was working with, and she came to our coaching session with her slides, and this one slide had so much data on it. And I said, Stephanie, you need to get rid of a lot of that data. No. The scientists need this data. They need to understand how powerful this experiment is. I said, okay, what about the 33% of the audience who are business professionals and they have no idea what you're talking about? They are going to gloss over. You need something for them. Okay, so I said to her, listen, your homework between now and our next session is to think about how you can make this slide resonate with the business professionals in the room. So a week goes by, she comes back, puts up the slides. It's the same slide with all the data. One difference, most of the data was in green and just a few data points were in red. And she went through her spiel for the scientists. And then she said, for the non-scientists in the room, all you need to know about this slide is green is good, red is bad. And you should have seen everybody, all the business professionals, the finance people, the legal people, get so excited about her science because there was so much green on this slide. What she was doing in her labs was going to make such a huge difference for patients. right? So you have to have something for everyone. This leads me to words matter. Now, the very first time I met Karen Chapman, our president of the chamber, she and I had a conversation, and I said this to her: words matter. And it warms my heart because even about a month ago, I had a conversation with her, and she repeated this back to me. She said, "You taught me words matter." And they do matter. So here's an example: competitive compensation. Okay. How many of your organizations have used this phrase in their hiring practices? Competitive compensation. I'm going to break this down for you. Competitive. What does this actually mean? If, one insurance company has competitive compensation in their job descriptions and another one down the street has the same verbiage, what does it actually mean? Well, the competitive means we're basically going to give you everything else that other companies are giving you, because that's what's expected, right? That's what that means. My favorite part of this example is compensation. So this is a little activity. Take out your phones. I want you to Google the definition of compensation. And if somebody could read it out for me, that would be great. Anybody can just come off mute and read it out for us.
Something, typically money, awarded to someone as a recompense for loss, injury, or suffering.
Thank you. Loss, injury, or suffering. That is what Google says the definition of compensation is. So we want you to come work for us because you're going to have loss, you're going to have some form of injury, and I forget what the last word was, but it's not good, right? So
Suffering.
we're suffering. And I know that in my career, I did work in places where there was suffering, and I'm sure many of you have similar experiences. And so this is sort of an over the top example, but it goes to show that words do matter. So when you are creating a story, or really any communication, any message, there are 4 things that you want to be able to answer. 4 questions. What? What is it we're talking about? So what? Why should I care as your audience, right? What's in it for me? What's different? This is a key question, because why should I come to Central One as a bank instead of going down the street to somebody else? Why should I choose X financial advisor instead of the one I talked to last week, right? What is different? And then what now? What action do you want me to take as your audience, right? Do you want me to sign up for a webinar? Do you want me to tell a friend about your services? What action is it do you want me to take? You have the opportunity to elicit something in your audience when you're telling a story. So as you're crafting your story, these are 3 things to think about. What is it you want them to think? How do you want them to feel? And what do you want them to do? These are 3 key areas to think through when you're crafting a story. Put yourself in their shoes, right? What would you want to think reading this? How would you want to feel? And what would you want to do? So as you're delivering your message, you walk through this flow in the storyline. So the first thing is you have to have a hook, right? You need a strong visual, you need a staggering statistic, or a question that you're posing to your audience. Then you want to bring them along. You want them to have a sense of anticipation, right? Like a child, the curiosity of a child. What's going to come next, The third thing is having some type of hope or confidence, right? Either, in the case of my scientists who said green is good, red is bad, this was the what if moment for the non-scientists in the room, right? Like, what if her science works? What could it do, right? So you want that sense of, wow, this is possible, the possibility. And then the fourth element is contribution, right? What impact do you want your story to make? And how do you want your audience to actually see themselves contributing and being part of your story? So keeping it clean, this is really for verbal presentations that have slides similar to this, right? How many times have you seen a presentation that looks like the image on the left? There's so much on the slide. There's so many visuals. There's so much text. You don't know where to look. You don't know where to focus. You may be reading the slide if there's so much text on there, and you're not actually hearing the speaker, who is the storyteller. This isn't narration. This is a narrated story. Slides are really meant, used properly, slides are truly meant as a cue for the speaker to know where you are in your story flow, right? And also, if you look at the image on the right, it's very clean. I know where I'm supposed to be looking. Now, unfortunately, our technology didn't work today. Normally, this presentation I do with builds or animations. So the audience knows exactly what to focus on at the right moment in the storyline. But technology got the best of us this morning, and you have to go with the flow. So why is this important? So good stories, they make a human connection. Relationships, one of my mentors always said to me, business is 75% relationship building. If you cannot build a relationship and make a connection with people, they will go somewhere else, right? And I truly believe that. So good stories make a human connection. They give your audience confidence in you, that you know what you're talking about. Again, eliciting an action or a behavior, right? If nothing changes, nothing changes. With a good story, you can make change. You can have people take an action or change a behavior, right? That's important. And finally, it can set you above your competition. And in business, that's important, right? Again, it goes back to, why do I want to use this insurance company over this insurance company, right? So it makes a difference.
Look. No, come here. Sit, Bear. Sit.
Can everybody come on mute? Thanks. So I'm going to walk you through a real life example. So this is Ford Bronco. Okay, now I'm just going to read this text to you. I want you to look at the image. I'm going to read the text to you, and then I'm going to ask you a couple questions. Ford Bronco, built wild. When it was introduced, the original Ford Bronco helped launch a whole new class of thrilling off-road vehicles. Now it has returned, here to take you back into the mountains, the woods, and remote locations that adventurers call home. Available as a Heritage True 2-door and first ever Bronco 4-door with 6 unique models and an array of available Ford accessories to choose from, there are plenty of ways to build an adventure-seeking beast that fits your lifestyle. So, get ready to mount up. Ford Bronco is back. So, I'm going to ask you, and you can put this in the chat, and then Cynthia, if you could just read some out for me, that would be great. So, what does Ford want their audience to think when they read this story? You even just put like 1 or 2 words in there. What do they want them to think? How do they want them to feel? and what do they want them to do?
Okay, so a few comments came in,
Right?
Susan. I can read a few.
Great.
Excitement, going on a wild adventure, feeling free. They want the consumer to feel like purchasing this vehicle over others and take them on an adventure, excitement, ready to ride a horse. So the
I love that one.
adventure and excitement.
I love that. Great. Thank you. So let's continue the Ford Bronco story. Comfort meets durability. The interior is easy to clean even after a punishing trek with marine grade vinyl and washable floors with built-in drains. But utility doesn't mean sacrificing comfort. The available heated seats and steering wheel can help you stay toasty warm at high elevations and through extreme winter conditions. Now, this text, even though it's showing the interior of the car, it's not talking about the interior measurements, the capacity of the interior. It's not talking about that. And it's ensuring that this visual, if you look through the window, what do you see? You see the mountains, right? So even though this is talking about the interior of the car, they are still bringing you on this trek, right? Even the word punishing trek, right? So now I'll ask you again, and if you could put something in the chat, and Cynthia, read that out, a few of those things out. Who do you think is their target audience for the Ford Bronco? Who are they speaking to?
Okay, a few comments came in.
Right?
Those people who love the mountains, outdoorsy people, the outgoing adventurer, people who like adventure, the young at heart, older but not ready to give it up.
I love that one. Great.
Family individuals who like the outdoors, families because of the 4 seats, and someone wrote fairly broad audience because there's focus on comfort as well as excitement.
Excellent. Great. Thank you, everybody. This is their audience. Again, their tagline, Built Wild. See what fellow owners are doing. Get inspiration from elite adventurers, aka Team Bronco. Can a vehicle change you? We're about to find out. Right? This is an incredibly powerful story that doesn't talk about, the first image that I showed you of the Bronco in front of the red rocks with that first bit of text. That's not talking about the size of the tires, the power or the torque of the engine. It's not talking about any of that, right? Even the second slide that I show with the interior, again, not talking about the measurements of the interior capacity, right? It's talking about how can you go and have an amazing adventure with this vehicle. That is a powerful story. And yeah, I was sharing these slides with my wife yesterday. And when I got to this example, she laughed and she said, "So I'm not their target audience." She is disabled. She's actually in a wheelchair, but we both love the Ford Bronco. We think it's a beautiful vehicle. And I laughed and I said, "No, you're not their target audience. That doesn't mean you can't buy one. That just means they're not looking for you as their audience," right? And a friend of mine, she sort of challenged me on this. Well, shouldn't it be for everybody? And I said, listen, everybody can buy it, but marketing, and the marketers on the call know, marketing, you need to be able to tell the story to the people. You can't be everything to everyone, right? Because then you dilute your message. So you want to be targeted. And in this case, Ford wants to target those adventurers, right? The people who are rugged, they go camping, they want to go to the mountains. That's who they want. And once they get their target audience to purchase a Ford Bronco, the intention is time and again, there will be brand loyalty to Ford Broncos, right? That is how they are building their business. So in this case, their story is incredibly important for their business. So in summary, I'm going to go over the 4 key points of strong storytelling. Number 1, know your audience, right? Find out everything you can about your audience. Number 2, forget the jargon. Every industry has jargon, right? Nobody understands it if they're outside of your industry. And actually, I would challenge that even people within your industry may not understand the jargon. If they're new to the industry, they might not have come across those acronyms yet. The pharmaceutical industry is like perfect for this. The other thing is, even within your industry, for me, the scientific industry, yes, there may be all PhD scientists in an audience, but there may be biologists and there may be chemists, and they do not speak the same language, right? So stay away from the jargon and make sure you have something for everyone. So you need to know those 4 questions. You need to be able to answer what, so what, what's different, what now. And a final little story, when I was working with my internal clients, I was the strategic communicator for our HR department, this global pharmaceutical company. And the HR partners would come and say, Susan, we need to communicate this new initiative, right? Here it is. And I would stop them and I would say, what is it? So what? Why do 100,000 employees need to know this? They get so much information every day. What's in it for them? What's different? How is this initiative different than the one you launched a month ago? And what now? What action do they need to take? Right? And so for several years, I was the business partner for the HR team. And I would go through this over and over again. And then one meeting, one of the senior HR partners came to the meeting with a junior partner. And the junior partner was the project lead on this particular project. And the junior partner said to me, Susan, we need to, communicate this initiative internally. Here it is. And the senior partner said, wait a minute. Hey, we need to be able to answer what, so what, what's different, what now, before Susan can help us. And I thought, thank the Lord, they finally get it. And that was just like a proud parent moment for me, because they understood the importance of this. And now they were being the mouthpiece for good storytelling. And then the final image on this slide is keeping it clean. Again, you'll notice my slides were very clean. And like I said, had the technology worked, there would have been builds. So you wouldn't have seen all 4 of these images on the slide. As I was talking through the slide, you would see 1 image at a time. So I ask you, what's your next story? And how will you use storytelling to advance your company goals? Thanks for your attention. Thanks to the Chamber for giving me this opportunity. And I'm happy to answer any questions. I'm going to stop sharing so I can see you all now. And I can see the chat now too, which is great.
Oh, great. Thank you so much, Susan. This was super informative. I'm sure the group really found it to be informational and helpful. I really hope that we will have some time to answer any questions and maybe have some discussion, because we do have a few more minutes.
Susan, your points about keeping the slides clean resonates back many years ago. There was a TV personality who also did presentations and things, and he always referred to as death by PowerPoint, by just having all kinds of stuff on there where like you said, less is more.
Yeah.
And it makes a big difference.
Absolutely. You confuse your audience, right? When there's so much information on a slide, they don't know where to look, right? And as the storyteller, like I said in delivering the message, there's the hook, there's the anticipation, right? If you put everything on the slide, you lose that element of anticipation, right? Because they're reading ahead, so there is no anticipation, right? Thanks, Sheldon. I guess I'll put a question back to the group. In your organizations, how have you seen storytelling be used, and do you feel that it's being used well? So does that mean nobody has seen storytelling used in their organizations? Because then maybe I could help you. So.
I mean, I've seen it a number of times. One of my early mentors, would tell a story and from the life insurance business, and it makes a big difference. Now, one of the other folks in our business now, I mean, some people are really good at it, and it just makes the world a difference too when you can hear that and the points they get across. It's just tremendous.
Priya, I see that you're on the line. Just curious, in your line of business, I would think some type of storytelling is quite important. Would you like to chime in?
Sure. It anchors the audience in some way or the other. And if it resonates, people reach out to you. It helps you build a relationship and take the sales from there. Or even, to nurture the relationship from there.
Great, thanks.
So I had a question.
Sure.
So you said your content should be for everyone. And then eventually you ended up saying it should be niched for your audience.
Yes. So no, I didn't say it should be. I said that there should be something in there to excite your audience.
Got it.
Right? There should be something in there, like the non-scientists got excited about this scientific data. They didn't know what any of the numbers meant, but they knew green was good and red was bad, right? So they got excited. And in her case, when you're in a big organization like that, getting everybody behind the mission and what you're trying to do and connect them to the mission, that's critical. That is critical.
Okay.
Because we want, in that particular example, we want the legal team, we want the facilities people, we want them to understand why it's so important that they're choosing to work for this company. Because look at how this company could potentially change the lives of patients.
Thank you. Thank you for clarifying.
So I think at Nichols College, we're looking at a market that's constantly changing. So we have to make sure we really know that audience before we can tell a great story. And I mean, we can tell a great story about going to grad school. We have that down pat. But it's knowing, how are the demographics changing? And even if we have a great story, if it is sent out to someone who has no interest in grad school, then it doesn't matter. So.
Right, absolutely. And thank you for sharing that, Karen. And the thing is, right, when I work with some of my clients, they need to give a presentation, whether it's science or business, right? And depending on who they're talking to, they need to shift the presentation style a little bit, right? If they're presenting the same ideas and concepts to investors, it needs to be a little different than if they're sharing that same message with their colleagues at a PhD scientific meeting, right? It's still the same message that they're getting. It's still the same content that they're developing to share, but different audiences care about slightly different things, and they also hear it differently, right? So understanding who you're talking to. If you're sharing Nichols, stories with, let's say underrepresented population, right? You might tell your story a little bit different than if you were sharing it with, a more privileged population, right? That might be slightly different flavors. And so in your case, Karen, I think, especially since your target audience is shifting all the time, keeping your thumb on the pulse of what that is important, and producing many stories over and over and over again with slightly different focus, because you now have a different audience to whom you're speaking, right? I think that's would be really helpful for you.
Susan, I just want to comment on something you mentioned early on in the presentation, which I agree 100%. You had mentioned that business is 75% relationship building. I think it is super fascinating, and I'm thinking that most people here would agree. I'd love to hear any comments anyone might have about that.
So at Nichols, we have admissions counselor. I'm an admissions counselor, so I'm not a recruiter. I'm a counselor, so I work with students or people who want to go to grad school, and my goal is just to develop a relationship with them and help them through the process. It's not necessarily getting them to enroll at Nichols, although that's obviously the goal, but I'm also there to help them through the process of what does it mean to apply to graduate school. We encourage them to look at other schools. So I take on more of like a one-on-one relationship building role than necessarily the hard and fast selling role.
I think, the story is often the start of the relationship. So you're going to want to keep coming back to the story, like you said, and finding ways to engage your target audience as you go through that relationship.
And relationship building is also part of trust building. So that plays a major role too.
That's right. All of those things, reliability, credibility, and think about it. If you know somebody in a certain field, let's use you, right? Web design, that sort of things, marketing, you're going to likely go to the person you know first to say, hey, here are my needs. Is this something that you can help with? Is this something that you can do? Right, Laura, same thing with you with marketing. Like, I know you. Hey, I need a marketing thought partner, or I want to bring somebody on as a business partner to help me with this. I'm going to go to somebody I know first, somebody I have a relationship with, before you go to the old yellow pages.
And that's why it's so important to come to as many chamber events as possible, because it's all about networking.
That's right.
Yes.
All right, Cynthia, do you have some closing remarks?
I just want to mention that this is recorded, as I think you all saw, and you also will be receiving a survey over email, which we hope you will fill out. We always love to hear what you thought of the webinar, any feedback you have about future webinar topics. So if you could please fill out the survey, we would appreciate it. And I want to mention the next webinar we have scheduled is on June 3rd. That's a Tuesday, and it's the power of consultative selling. And that's with Tom Harold. He is the speaker. So hopefully you can attend that one. And we have an event tomorrow morning as well in Westboro, where I'm hoping many of you will be at as well. But I want to thank you all so much for coming today. And Susan, thank you so much. It was super informative.
Great. Thanks for having me. And I will see you bright and early tomorrow morning at the DoubleTree.